have started the awakening process and not realize it. When I began my process, if you heard my part one of my spiritual journey, I told you I asked a question after a meeting one night. And I believe that was when I started my awakening, my spiritual awakening. But you know how many years ago that was? At a good 20 years ago. So I want to let you know that the process is a process. So, and when I asked the question, I didn't know that I was, you know, starting, my spiritual awakening. I was just asking questions, in the old school, they say, don't question God. But I've always been curious or always been open minded, open hearted, even as a child. And I asked questions. When my parents told me not to do something, guess what I did? I went and see what they were talking about. Why I can't go do that? So I went and did and see what it was. I wanted to see for myself what it was. So I carried that personality over into my spirituality of just wanting to know for myself. I want to experience it for myself. So, anyway, I truly believe that my spiritual awakening started with that question over 20 years ago. And now I'm here 40 years because I've been married about 40 years. So, close to 40 years. And I'm still going through the process. I realize now, of course, that uh, have awakened. I have awakened at this point, but I've gone through so many things. One of the things that I wanted to mention that I went through, I moved from my birth city, and we had did a tent meeting in another city. And once we finished the tent meeting, um, I told my husband, we're not going home. I mean, we literally just moved there, hardly moving. We didn't have a lot of furniture or nothing back then, so we didn't have a lot to move. So, but we stayed in that city. And I believe my soul knew that that was part of the journey that I needed to go through. So, guess what that journey was? That journey was like the dark night of the soul that they say I went through. I revisited things that I used to do, because I stopped, preaching, stopped pastoring and all of that. So I revisited things that I used to do. I revisited them. And, of course, church people say, well, you backslid. Well, I don't even use that definition how, the church people where I come from, community, how they use that. But I did revisit some things that I used to do. I did. But what I believe now is that I needed to revisit them. That's the key point. I needed to revisit them because I needed to conquer them. I needed to get more lessons from them that I hadn't learned before. And so I revisited them. And I really think that I'm a better person from revisiting that. I do. I think I'm a better uh, person now because I revisited. So I'm done with it. I'm completely done with that part of me. It's healed. Uh, I know what that's about. I have more empathy for people who's in that position. I am less judgmental. All of that. And you know how many people in the church, the community, that are so judgmental. They love to say, I ain't never did this, I ain't never did that. Well, it's a lot of people who have done that and did this. Okay? And they're looking for somebody who can relate to where they are. I can relate to everything because I haven't done it. I had boundaries that I didn't do, but I still uh, practice not judging people who have. So I really feel like I had to go back Sometimes you got to go back and revisit. So I was surprised even when I was revisited those things that I was doing it, but I did, and I'm not ashamed of it or anything. And you know, I tell people my family went witnessed it. They thought it was strange too, but uh, I came out of it, and I'm here today. So uh, sometimes we have to go through the, what they call it the dark night of the soul. I think to get to overcome certain obstacles and begin our rebirthing because we are being born again every day. We don't just be born again when you accept, a deity called Jesus into your life. You're being born again every day through your everyday experiences, through your everyday challenges. We're being reborn again. As long as we take those lessons and use them as a stepping stone to be the best version of ourselves that we can, we are being born again every day. So if you heard part one, then you got the foundation of where I come from. If you haven't, go back and listen to it, and I believe that you will resonate with some part of that. So once I, began this process, and then I started coming out of that, of revisiting stuff. Started coming out of that. So again, now remember, this has been over 20 years ago, so it took some time, but I started coming out of that, and I was trying to find my voice. I was trying to find my voice. I thought my voice was when I was holding the mic in the pulpit. So I didn't know where my voice was. That was just, you know, I didn't know where my voice was without a mic in my hand. And I didn't realize the voice was within me. So I had to go through that process of knowing that my voice was on the inside of me. I didn't know which direction to go. I didn't know whether to start back preaching or, or to try to get a group together that followed me. I did because that's what I was used to. So I had to find who I was now, this new person. I had to be introduced to this new question, this new, person that I was. Then, going through those personal setbacks and for the first time in many years, I had the opportunity to really hear Spirit's voice without the constant noise of, you know, religious expectations or, uh, what I thought was expectation, or maybe they were expectation I put on myself. I don't know. But I had to get over that. I wasn't trying to fit into someone else's idea of what spirituality should look like. I thought it should look like in a church, but no. Spirituality, you are spirit. And spirituality looks like you. It looks like me. It looks like everyday people. That's what spirit looks like. I was learning to experience the divine in a much deeper and more personal way. So that's why I say that I'm even more spiritual. I know I am more spiritual than I have ever been, and more in touch with what spirit is all about. I began reading with fresh eyes. I started asking questions I had never allowed myself to ask before. I realized that seeking truth is not going against spirit, but it is a part of spiritual growth. I was growing. What I discovered changed my life. It did. It changed my life. I learned that spirituality is not owned by a building, it ain't owned by a denomination or a title. They called me Sister Woods. So y'all know I'm as my Woo. That's where the Woo comes from Woods. My last name is Woods. And it's not owned by any of that. It is a living relationship with the Creator, the Most High, that invites us to grow in wisdom, love, compassion, and truth. So, as I awakened, I also began to see the many people were carrying the same questions I once carried. They loved spirit, but they felt trapped by fear, guilt, or the belief that questioning their faith meant they were doing something wrong. I now believe the opposite. Sometimes our questions become the doorway to a much deeper understanding, which it did me. Today, I no longer see my calling exactly as I did years ago. I don't believe my assignment ended when I stepped away from pastoring. It simply evolved. It evolved to something much deeper than pastoring. I'm still pastoring. Technically, I'm still pastoring. I pastor every day. I still have a pulpit. The pulpit is in my heart. The altar of the Spirit is in my heart. I preach from the pulpit every day from the spirit of my heart because I know I carry a spirit of love, a spirit of not judging people. I can talk to anyone, any race, any sexual preference, all of that stuff that we think is, just you going to hell for them, the people that we need to be talking to and showing love to and not judging where they are because you could be there too. Guess what? You can be there too. So stop it with that. Never done that. Never did this. Never done that. And if you have, guess what? It's okay. But we ain't finna wallow in and we ain't finna stay there. That's the point. You ain't finna wallow in it and you ain't finna stay there. The journey ain't perfect. Nobody's journey is perfect. So I'm still learning. I'm still growing. And I don't claim to have all the answers. But one thing I've learned is that awakening is not about abandoning faith. I didn't abandon faith. I just grew from faith, and now I'm into a knowing. I know. See, when you know something, you ain't got to have faith. Faith is just like a stepping stone. But now I know. When you just know something, you know it. You ain't got to, try to believe it. You ain't got to pray about it. You ain't really, you just know. Just like we go to bed at night, we just know we're going to get up in the morning. We don't think about, oh, I may not get up. We don't think about that. Most people. But we just know that we are going to go. And then, so I just know that as you are being reborn and you're awakening, I know you're going to go from dimension to dimension, level to level. But I also learned awakening is about you maturing. And that's what knowing is. You're maturing from faith. You don't fear, and you're going into a spirit of love, wisdom, and just your personal experience in life. That's what's going to help you, and it's going to help carry the whole, us as a whole. Us as a whole is going to carry us, help carry us to the next dimension. So, with that, I'm just going to say be patient with yourself. Give yourself permission to grow. Give yourself permission to ask questions. Read, y'all. Read a book. Don't be scared of a book. Read a book. Okay? Uh, you can put protection on yourself if, read Psalm 91. I think Christian people still believe in that one. So, and if you're not Christian, it still stands true. I read Psalm 91 periodically. You got to be protected spiritually. And you have to believe that. You have to know that. Are you leaving yourself wide open to anything and everything? Your spiritual path is uniquely yours. And you do what works for you. You do what works for you. And sometimes the greatest transformation begins when you're willing to step beyond what you've always known. Be willing to step beyond that. Okay? All right. So I thank y'all for walking this journey with me. Those of you who have listened, whoever it is. I don't care if it's one person, two person. Hey, I'm just doing what Spirit has told me to do for my evolution and to help us as a whole. To help us as a whole. So if any part of my story has encouraged you, I invite you to continue listening. Let's grow together. Let's explore together and move beyond religion and embrace a deeper, more authentic spiritual life. Okay. All right. So until next time, may peace, wisdom, and divine guidance be with you always, is my prayer. Ashe.